Hello and welcome to the fourth and penultimate episode of this week's daily SBK betting podcast, covering all the action at the 2025 Cheltenham Festival. There will be one more episode tomorrow, despite the fact there's no racing at Cheltenham on Saturday. We'll be reviewing all of the Cheltenham action on Friday and provide our Saturday nap and next best. So do not miss out. Subscribe down below and make sure you put the bell notification on as well so that you can see our podcast tomorrow to end this week. Tom Collins here, joined by Ross Millar as ever. Ross, Thursday's been a bit hit or miss for me. The Stayers Hurdle is the race we'll touch on first. I'm a little bit gutted. T Hooper's just been beaten. We've just watched it before coming on and filming this podcast. But Bob Bollinger was just a better horse on the day.
Yeah, but the ground's beaten him, isn't it, TC? I was against him. I've got the right result, but I got the wrong work, and I thought that some younger legs might come and do him, and actually older legs that still move remarkably quickly up that Cheltenham Hill came and did him. And like you say, the better horse on the conditions on the day, under a really good ride, not there's anything wrong with the ride on the runner-up, has gone and done him for a bit of speed up the hill, but T Hooper has gone up in my estimation for not winning. He's gone up in my estimation. He didn't have conditions his own way. He's beaten all those new pretenders and just got beaten by a faster horse who was talked about at one time as a champion hurdle horse.
Yeah, he had no excuses. Look, I really wanted him to win. Obviously, it was my nap of the meeting. But unfortunately, he's come off second best. He smashed the remainder, the Wall Park, who people thought was the biggest danger. Lucky Place probably didn't get home. Home by the Lee, super unlucky again in this race, just being completely knocked out by Crambo when he came down after a circuit. But good win for Bob Ollinger, and his record at the Cheltenham Festival continues to impress. I think he's 3 from 3 at the festival now. Just a great horse for Connections. Another horse to talk about who is going to be a great horse for Connections if he's not already is Factor File, who romped home in the Ryanair. I thought he was the most impressive winner of the week, just supreme from start to finish. I still believe that he is the one horse that can throw it down to Galopin Des Champs in the Gold Cup. Do you agree yet?
No, I don't, TC, because the whole angle I had with him is trying to make him more efficient by nullifying his jumping, and it was particularly evident, I felt, at Leopardstown the first time. He went in his stride. He jumped impeccably. He was the big one of the week for me. I made no bones about that on the preview pod and yesterday. I've been with him since the Browns. I didn't think he was a Gold Cup horse, and I just hoped that would come to bear. Brilliant, confident ride. And just the way he strode away from them, I agree with you. I think it's the performance of the week and probably the performance of the season. And I think it'll take quite something to beat it, although we might get onto one in a minute that might rival that.
Yeah, I thought he was brilliant today. There was no match in that race for him. Ile Francais, more like Ile Donkey. I apologise to Connections. I just wanted to say that because I thought it was funny. Right, next race to talk about was Caldwell Potter's victory. This horse cost so much money, 700 plus thousand for New Connections. He finally managed to fulfil some of his potential by winning the Novices Handicap Chase for Paul Nicholls. Big winner for Nicholls.
Yeah, really big winner for Nicholls. I mean, I was, I'm not overly vocal because I think you pay your money, you take your chance. But I do think, if you go back a couple of years ago, they were talking about we've got to beat the Irish in the sales ring. And they did that by just throwing more money at it and by not looking like buying value. They've spent far too much on him. But right now, they'll be in the owners and trainers shipping champagne, owners of a Cheltenham winner. He's done his job. And he was very impressive, wasn't he? I mean, he looked a much better horse. Paul Nicholls is not champion trainer for no reason. He's found these problems. He's probably working away trying to iron them out. He'll never deliver on that price tag, I don't think. I don't think he's a Gold Cup horse, but they have at least salvaged something, from a fairly poor season.
Yeah, Connections will be happy that at least they've won at the Cheltenham Festival, even if he doesn't fulfil that price tag. It was a good victory, bold jump in display, and a really good ride from Harry Cobden, who just hasn't had many chances of going close this week. A couple of other horses briefly to talk about. Air of Entitlement ran down 6.5 in the Mare's Novice, another winner for Rachel Blackmore. And Diva Luna actually ran a really good third in that race for me each way. And also in the Potemps was a victory there for a horse that I can't even remember because I was so focused on Feet of a Dancer finishing fourth. Which of those two races stands out to you?
Well, the Potemps, TC, and I know you well enough to know that you haven't chucked me under the bus here, but it's Doddy the Great, who I've been all over all season, mentioned him on pretty much most Miller's movers, and then left him off. He was there on a list yesterday, and I left him off because I just felt that I was becoming a bit of a broken record. I'm thrilled to see him get it done. I didn't tip him. I did have a few pound loyalty bet, which I obviously shouldn't say to you, on him, and I hope a few, that follow the podcasts have, and I know a few have mentioned me to say that they stuck with him when I didn't. Great to see him get his result. You know, the Doddy Weir Foundation is going to benefit from that as well. And he looked like a really good horse all the way through that race. He went much the best. Your selection, I think, probably got given a bit too much to do, really, and was whether he'd been good enough to beat Doddy, I'm not sure, but he certainly would have been much closer, granted a more positive ride, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I won't harp on too much about Feet of a Dancer, but she was the only one to make up considerable ground. I thought she ran very well to grab us each way money. If she was better positioned, she would have gone close. Dottie the Great was the winner. I apologise, I did genuinely forget. But that is the horse that you have been harping on about for the whole jump season. So I'm glad a few of the loyal watchers have messaged you to say they followed him in again today. Okay, we're going to move on to Friday's action. Now, there's a bit of housekeeping to have here. Firstly, a quick stats pointer to those of you who are interested in our performance and have been tuning in over the course of the week, or may just be tuning in for the first time into these daily pods. So far this week, Ross is boasting a nice P&L profit of 6.2 points and an ROI of 19%. I'm sat on 9.35 points with an ROI 43%. This is with 2 races still to go on Thursday, so that could all change, and it does change very quickly given we've got selections in every race, sometimes 2 selections, sometimes 1 selection. But I thought that was good for transparency, and I think it's something moving forward that hopefully we'll continue to do in this podcast and other podcasts should actually do to provide the people at home some reasons why you should listen to us. Next, a bit more housekeeping, and this is the SBK offer section where I have to reel off several offers that SBK currently have going on. Firstly, if you place a £5 bet builder on the Europa League, that's Thursday evening, one of the Europa League matches, you will get a free £2 bet for the Triumph Hurdle, the first race on Friday. Secondly, SBK is offering a 20% winnings boost on that Triumph Hurdle, so that's a race where you want to be taking advantage of finding the winner. And thirdly, SBK is providing a free £2 Cheltenham multiple selection for all customers who opt in. I think the bet builder offer is also an opt-in only, so make sure you do that if you're interested. T's and C's do apply. Also, if you're liking these videos, whack us a like down below, click the thumbs up, that is very much appreciated. Right, here we go, Friday's action. The Grade 1 Triumph Hurdle is up first at 1:20 p.m. This has been one of the most hotly anticipated races of the week, to be fair, Ross. There are 3 horses in here that boast unbeaten records. East India Doc, Hello Neighbour and Lalamba. Who do you like?
Well, Hello Neighbour's the first one off the list, TC. I'm not sure he had a whole lot left in the tank at Leopardstown last time, and I'm not quite sure what that form amounts to. As mentioned on the preview pod, this really tears at me because I absolutely love Ulamba and how he looks and how he goes about things. But the bare facts are he's pretty short on experience. The form has taken a couple of knocks with Mondo Man running poorly next time. Conversely, East India Doc has run some good numbers already. He's got experience around this track. He's done it more than once. He was a good flat horse. He'll stay strongly, and you need to stay to win a Triumph. He's now, I think, the right price. When we put him up on the preview pod, they were still joint favourites, and they shouldn't have been. I'm going to stick with him. I think he is by far and away the most logical winner. I'll be really interested to see what Ulamba can do on better ground around this undulating track, but I think East India Doc has got far less questions about him, so he's the selection.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. So it's East India Doc for both of us at 2-1. I won't completely copy everything you said there, but he's just a proven quantity with previous course form. Ulamba could be anything, but at the prices, East India Doc is far more solid, and therefore he's also my pick. I'm not convinced about Hello Neighbour, but I will have a bet on a horse that ran behind Hello Neighbour last time. It's kind of a saver in this first race. As we always say for these podcasts, by the way, it's 1 point win or 0.5 points each way, level stakes. I should have said that when I said the P&L a few minutes ago. The other horse that I'll have an each way play on here is Lady Vega Elen for Willie Mullins at around 16-1. I thought she shaped really well behind Hello Neighbour last time. The drying ground will suit her, and she's a strong traveller. Wouldn't give up on her. They could have gone to the Mares race, but they've gone to the Triumph instead, which is interesting. We'll move swiftly on to the County Hurdle at 2 p.m. A smaller field than usual here, only 16 runners, which is surprising. And that means we have just a 7-2 favourite in Cargis. The turnout is disappointing, isn't it, Ross? Who do you like in this race?
Well, before I get to that, TC, I'd say it is a poor turnout. You know, the Olympics of horse racing, we're told, and we'd have if it was the Olympics, we'd have a lane free, wouldn't we? It seems daft. It's undoubtedly the fact you need 5 runs now coming home to roost, and I think I would encourage trainers to adapt to it. I think it's a good rule that they've made. You know, you're not going to get so many unexposed horses, but perhaps compounded by the fact we had a dry start to the season, those horses just haven't got requisite number of runs, but they can carry on running now, you know, and you can have novices prepared at the back end of this season ready for next season. So I hope that's taken on board by trainers, and it's an anomaly this year. as for the race, I was really keen on Cargizi, and I still am, off a mark of 141. She didn't get touched with an Irish tax by the UK handicapper, which was pretty extraordinary, really. She ran really well in the Triumph last year, probably a bit keen. I think a strongly run handicap will really suit her. I don't much like her price now, but I hope that most people that are listening to us listen to the anti-post preview pod as well when she was a bigger price. And I just think Lark in the morning as well. You have to respect Joseph O'Brien lining up these handicap plots. He won the Fred Winter last year on heavy ground. He's going to have to prove he copes with better ground. Got injured on his next start at Haydock, I think it was. I thought he was very eye-catching at Leopardstown last time. From what we could see in the fog, I mean, ideal conditions if you're trying to hide your light under a bushel to have thick blanket fog that no one can see what you're up to. But he's been quite well supported in the market. I respect that, so he'd be my second one on the list.
Yeah, a couple of darts there for Ross at 7-2 and 9-2 respectively at the moment, but Cargizi was given a good shout out earlier on this winter. I'm also going to have a couple of darts. They're going to be at two different horses in Valgrand and Ethical Diamond. I've backed them both at 10-1. Valgrand is now a little bit shorter and Ethical Diamond is a bit bigger at 16s, but I'm still happy with their current prices. This is a race that Dan Skelton and Willie Mullins have dominated over the last 10 years, so I'll have one of each. Valgrand had some good course form earlier in the season. Looked like he just got stuck in the soft ground, and then they freshened him up for this. Ethical Diamond's a very fast horse, and I'm quite surprised at the price. I think maybe because Absurd's in the race, Ethical Diamond's price has been inflated, and that presents some value. The Mayor's Chase is up next. I personally think this race is boring, and I won't be having a selection in this contest. So, Ross, it's over to you.
Yeah, I agree with you, TC. Again, it's probably a race where, the fact you've got horses getting penalties doesn't make sense. So either make it a grade 2, and take away the penalties, or take the race elsewhere. It's not really adding anything at the moment, because there's a few in here that could legitimately run in other races, including my selection, Dino Blue. She was beaten in this last year, but I think she was beaten because of the ride. And I don't think it was a bad ride on the day. I understood why they did what they did, but they were unsure whether she'd get the trip on desperately heavy ground. Limerick Lace ploughed through the ground, got the run of the race under Keith Donoghue, and Dino Blue could never quite get back to her. She stays really well. She went on. She's got some good graded form after that. This livelier ground is going to really suit her. So she's a fairly confident selection, albeit in a race that's not the most exciting.
Yeah, Dino Blue then it is for Ross at around 5-4. No selection for me there. We'll move on to the Albert Bartlett at 3:20 p.m. The big Westerner is the 9-2 favourite in here for Henry de Bromhead, who had a very good Thursday, of course, with a couple of winners. This horse is unbeaten in 3 starts, but I think we're both going to go for some bigger prices in here. I wish the Yellow Clay was in this field, but he's not. Ross, where are we going instead?
Yeah, whatever happens, TC, it'd be one of those ones where you both look at anti-post slips and think, what could it be? Wendigo, I think we both put up on the preview pod, but he was a double-figure price, and he's been well found. He's been sort of mentioned on a few preview pods. Doesn't appeal at his current price. I've come back round to Jasmine DeVoe. The bumper form got a decent boost from Romeo Coolio, and I can just see this race sort of shooting. He's really struggled with his jumping in novice hurdles at the start of the year. He was better at Leopardstown last time when behind Final Demand. Now, Final Demand didn't I don't think let the form down, particularly coming back in trip on Wednesday. I can just see the fact there's only 2 hurdles in the final 7 furlongs here. Jumping's at less of a premium. And when you watch his Leopardstown run back, I loved how he was trying to make ground at the finish. He really has got a wonderful sort of terrier-like attitude, really gets his head down. So despite the fact he's not the best jumper, if you can negotiate the hurdles in some sort of fashion, I think Jasmine DeVoe is the most interesting one here.
Jasmine DeVoe then, 11-1 for Ross. I completely agree, by the way, about Wendigo, the horse that we both put up. I just think his price is gone, so I won't be putting him up here. Instead, I'll put up Jet Blue, the French horse, at 9-1, which is a very fair price. I thought he shaped pretty well when he won at this track 90 days ago, and he's been freshened up for this. The ground should be fine for him, and connections are very interesting. But it's not a race that I have a big opinion of now. Obviously, the Yellow Clay ran elsewhere. The Gold Cup, the big one, is up next at 4 p.m. It's all about Galopin Des Champs. This is not the best of punting races, Ross, but he is one of the best, if not the best, jumps horses in the game right now. I'm looking forward to watching him.
Yeah, really looking forward to watching TC. It's not a betting race, and the Gold Cup can be watched as a spectacle. I fully expect him to win. And you then say, well, why not take any? If you fully expect to win, any price is a good price. But we've seen this week that things can happen. There is no such thing as a certainty, and he has got to cope with more lively ground. I don't see it being an issue, but particularly with the jumping, we've seen a few seasoned horses this week struggle with their jumping off better ground, just going a gear quicker. For that reason, I'd be against. I like the way you're thinking. Who's been quite well touted. He's been supplemented. If people are listening to this and they want to, they want to have a 50p each way bet or something like that, just for a bit of fun in the office. I think a Hoisinyor is a big price on ground. He's going to love. Lucinda Russell has clearly got a horse in good form with Maya Time, who's also by the same stallion, winning earlier in the week. He was in the wrong race last year. You go back to his Gold Cup run when he fell, he was still travelling quite well. In a race that seriously lacks depth, and he's one of them that's done nothing for a couple of runs today. He's had wind up. I just think at a big price, you could have a small bet on him each way, and he might well run into a place.
Yeah, an interesting word or two there about Hoisinyor. Galopin Des Champs is Ross's selection and mine as well in this race, just for clarity. And we'll stick by the 1 point win scenario that we have been for all these races. But a Hoisinyor would be an interesting play, as you say, potentially at huge odds. I'll tell you what would interest me about him, by the way. He's just had a wind up. Second time after a wind up at Aintree, maybe next month.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. And that does appear to be his track, doesn't it? There's less sort of complications going uphill and down Dale. He doesn't really cope all that well. I don't think he's a particularly well balanced horse, and he struggles a little bit. But he was running a good race in the Gold Cup, so I'm all about Galopin Des Champs, But I just wanted to give a sort of, if you want to have a bet and you don't want to be betting Galopin Des Champs at short odds, he'd be where I'd be looking.
Absolutely. Okay, the penultimate race on Friday is the Hunter's Chase. Angel's Dawn is your current favourite, 4-1 with SBK, very good price. This is where Ross usually comes into his own. Remind us, what was the price of that winner you had a couple of years ago?
So it's Premier Magic was 66-1 2 years ago, and I think Scene Nominee was 10, something like that last year. So yeah, we're trying to go for the hat trick. And again, the lead up, it staggers me that people haven't watched, I don't think, British point to points. And the Irish have got a stronger hand here. I think they've got the first 3 or 4 in the market. But I do like Fairly Famous for Gina Ellis or Gina Andrews, Tom Ellis, the trainer. 2 from 2 at Cheltenham at Hunter Chases, staying really strongly on good ground. He'll love this ground. He's won both his point to points in very easy fashion this year. This is not a moderate operation. They are a smart operation. They've been producing point to pointers for a long time. Tom has just taken out a full license. They've been waiting to run this horse in this race. They missed it last year. I think he could well surprise a few people that only focus on the Irish. If you were taking the Irish, I like On the Ropes with Charlie Mullins on board. He was a really good 5th in the Scottish National last year. He was running away with a Galway handicap when coming down. He in a field where there's aging horses that are perhaps not going to appreciate this livelier ground, because as they go through the season, they get a bit more wear and tear. He's going to love this ground. I think he's overpriced. He was 20-1 when I looked. I don't know quite what price he was with the SPK, but I thought he was a lively outsider.
So that's Fairly Famous at 13-1 with SBK. On the Ropes, I think it's 54-1 with SBK. So big prices there for Ross, but Ross has already proven in the past that he can land a big touch in this race. So watch out for those two. I'm going to play a far more simpler shot in here. I'm not as clued up on these hunters as Ross, but I like Angel's Dawn at 4-1. I think it's a fair price on this mare, who's top rated, gets the mare's allowance, so she comes out way on top on figures. She ran in the Kinmure 2 years ago and won. She came back in the Kinmure last year and fell when travelling really well actually into the home straight. And her last 2 point starts have been easy successes. So I'll take Angel's Dawn. But if you want a slightly left field selection, then Ross has 2 big prices that you should definitely watch out for. Right, finally, last race of the Cheltenham Festival this year is the Martin Pipe. We usually see a very good horse win this race, despite the fact that it is a handicap hurdle. In the last 4 years, we've had Galopin Des Champs, Banbridge, Iroko, and Better Days Ahead. Who's going to follow their hoofprints?
I don't think there is one this year, TC. I think it's going to be slightly different with the 5 run rule. So I'm going for actually one that's a little bit more exposed in No Ordinary Joe. He was second in 2023 off a pound higher. You can forgive his run in this last year because Nicky Henderson's yard weren't right, as we know. I thought he was really eye-catching at Warwick last time, under a conditional jockey on that occasion as well. He clearly likes his track. Nicky Henderson hasn't had the rub of the green completely this week, but I'm sure he'd be pretty happy with his whole overall. Horses are clearly in good form. This sort of ground suits his horses down to the ground. So No Ordinary Joe's the first one. And then the second one at a bit of a bigger price, Park of Kings. He'll love this ground. He's run really well in 2 competitive handicaps the last twice, finishing second in each of them. Looks like this has been the target from some way out. JP Mouse colours. He's got a good record in this race, and he'd be my second on the list.
A couple of JP horses then for Ross to end off the Cheltenham Festival this year. I'm going to bet a horse that I really like actually in this spot, and that's Tap on the Go for Henry de Bromhead. 12-1, huge price. Even if this horse was 7 or 8-1, I'd still play him. He smashed McClory in a maiden hurdle earlier this year by 9 lengths. Now, McClory probably wasn't off that day, but still, he managed to beat the horse decisively. Subsequently, Tap on the Go has run well, but been beaten. But I think the handbrake has been on most recently, especially last time when he finished third. He was just never put in the race. Okay, he would never have won anyway because William Money was the eventual winner, and that horse came out and subsequently franked the form by finishing second in the Supreme. But they were quite clearly protecting his mark. I think he's very well handicapped of 135, and I'll be disappointed if he doesn't make the frame. Tap on the Go in the Martin Pipe. That is Friday completed. Ross, here's the question that might catch you off guard. Who's the best play on Friday?
East India Doc, you see. That was quicker, wasn't it?
Yeah.
East India Doc, first race, gets off to a good start.
That was much quicker. Well done. My best bet at the prices on Friday is going to be Tap on the Go in the Martin Pipe each way, but still probably my best play. Now it's time to do our combined 4-leg ACCA. As always, don't need to go through all of this, as if you probably watched 1 or 2 of these podcasts this week, but it's not always the way to play. We like to put up some big prices in here just to see if we can hit a big one rather than playing the awful favourite ACCAs that everyone likes. Ross, I'm going to put in Galopin Des Champs just purely because he's an obvious inclusion, and Tap on the Go at a bigger price. Yourself?
East India Doc and Jasmine DeVoe. And we should say that actually the short-priced ACCAs, I think today, if you take T Hooper would have been in it. They've gone down every single day, haven't they? So you'd have done your money.
Yeah, it's not the way to play, guys. If you're doing combination bets, put in some prices. Those 4 horses that we just mentioned there, 714 to 1 ACCA, you could just have a quid on that if you want, and it would be a nice reward. Look, it's highly unlikely to come in, but they're 4 horses that interest us at good odds, apart from Galopin, of course. Excellent stuff then. Just a reminder, there will be another episode tomorrow, the final one this week. Make sure you watch that. We'll be reviewing all of Friday's action, providing some highlights of the festival, giving an anti-post play for 2026, and providing a nap and next best for Saturday's races. I've already come up with a few of those, so look forward to that. Also, loads of offers mentioned already. I can't be bothered to list them again, Alex. I apologise. The one that I haven't listed, all new SBK customers can get £40 in free bets if you place your first £10 bet after you sign up. And also you can listen to all of these podcasts on the SBK app. Just go to the horse racing page, click play, and you can listen to us whether it's this week, next week, or some of the past weeks. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast, and we'll see you again tomorrow.